VAFA Tragics. We have a huge show planned tonight, but before we get into it all, we have a massive inclusion. After starring earlier this year, back by popular demand, we welcome Mitch Optug.
Thanks, mate. Good to be back. Starring might be a little bit too much.
Very popular unit earlier in the year.
Yeah, I was the late call-up, so I didn't have time to shave, unfortunately.
And because Mitch has come in, it means that one has left, obviously, and I think you can all tell it is Andrew Leonard. Brenton, do we know why Lenny isn't here?
Not too sure if did he phone in a reason to you, Nick, for a reason why he was not here?
No, he just texted me, but he was on the phone to Sammy Confey.
Yes.
He texted me that he'd be away. On the phone to Sammy Confey, comes in the office today and says that he's actually at Hotham. He's skiing the slopes.
He's skiing the slopes at Hotham on a Monday. This is a new high for Lenny.
I'd say it's a new low.
Yeah. The man he got seduced by the French Alps while he was over there, and he just caught the skiing bug. It is a bit cold in Melbourne. Mitch has got the jacket, I've got the vest. But I don't know if skiing at Hotham is a legitimate excuse to miss another show of Tragics. But I did catch Lenny watches back. I did catch Lenny on Friday night. You're tuning in to Channel 7's coverage of Hawthorn v Sydney. Now, Roaming Brian it's a segment on Channel 7 that's gathering momentum like a snowball. It's just rolling down the hill.
Much like our tragic take.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing that really disappoints me, Lenny just got his head on Roaming Brian. But what really disappointed me is Brian just shuffled into his interview with Taylor Duray. Lenny just let him waltz in. There was no resistance or anything. Lenny just said, yep, no worries, Brian, come in and just take away my interview with Taylor Duray. Really soft from Lenny, really marshmallow kind of stuff.
Let's move straight into performances of the week. I'll go straight back to you, Brenton.
Yes.
What caught your eye this week?
From one VAFA Tragics favourite to another, William Baum had his 100th game for Q on the weekend.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately for Barmy, the Bears couldn't get up over Old Haileybury. They went down by 16 points. But Barmy has given us some of the greatest moments in Tragics history and also the best dress sense of all time.
Mitch, your performance of the week.
So I'm going to stick with the division that I know. I'm going Division 1, St Mary's Salesian by myself. I'm not giving it to St Mary's. I'm going to give it to Preston Bullants this week because in round 13, they went down to Brunswick Knobs, who are looking pretty low on the ladder at the moment. They went down by 10 goals, and they've bounced back this week against top of the ladder Pegs, and they've knocked them off by 30 points. And not only is that a massive win for them, but it's just left the gate wide open for St Mary's to claim top spot.
Here we go.
Don't you get shaky in finals again?
Oh, jeez. Well, we're actually playing Preston this week, so that should be a good game. So
Home or away?
at home.
Yeah.
So should be a win, confident, but you never know. They're looking all right.
Either way, I think it's a top 2 spot for you boys anyway. I'm going to Premier Tom Girdwood from University Blues. This is a retrospective performance of the week. He broke the games record for the Blues last weekend. 253 games, now 54, I believe, breaking the record previously held by Mark Tyquin, father of the boys from St Bede's Mentone Tigers. So fantastic work there from Tom Girdwood, part of that reserves premiership last year. So he's doing great things down at Uni Blues. Let's move straight into William Buck Premier. And I was at the game between Beau Morris and Old Trinity on the weekend when Beau Morris claimed a 6-point win and their first win for the season. Now the Sharks led by 17 points at 3/4 time and kicked 2-4 in the final term, with Callum Beattie-Powell's sealer coming in the 25th minute here. Trinity hit back with a goal to Anthony Scott and had opportunities in the final 5 minutes to steal the win, but Bowie's defence stood tall. Their ferocity on the ball carrier, which we've seen a lot of in William Buck Premier this year, and their movement out of the back half was outstanding. So Benjamin Clean kicked 3 goals and was best of field for the Sharks, while Stephen Milne recorded 3 of his own while playing a brilliant one-on-one battle with Luke Piccioni. Now, Brenton, having watched this, and now Beau Morris, they have only got the one win for the year. We know they're not going to, they're unlikely to move out of the relegation zone, but could they have an effect on the makeup of the ladder for the remainder of the year?
Last 4 weeks, they could shape the top 4 possibly. If they hit top form, they've got St Kevin's away this week at TH King. Then they go the Blacks and Blues uni double for rounds 16 and 17. Now that's a Banksia reserve. Now they could, if they get a win over the Blues, they could possibly, maybe the makeup of the 8 could change. I don't think they could. It's a long stretch to shape it, but they could get some respectability back in the final round against St Bede's Mentone Tigers in a grand final rematch from last year and a classic clash.
Did you say that they have the Blacks?
They got Blacks and Blues, yes.
Well, that's the one that's...
Blacks is very important, yeah.
Huge for both, well, for Blacks there.
Blacks especially, yeah. It'll be a big stretch for Beau Morris to jump out of the relegation zone, but we won't put it past them.
No, they've played some good football this year, but you wouldn't expect it to happen. I think that game against Blacks, and obviously with Trinity in 9th at the moment, is probably the ones that they'll shape. Now, you boys were at the football on the weekend. The win played a major role in just about every game, at just about every venue.
As they say, you could blow the dog off a chain.
Absolutely, you could. Well, it did more than that. It blew 11 goals in one quarter.
Yeah, it's not bad.
For St Kevin's after they only kicked one goal for the remainder of the game. So, in saying that, that's one goal up until three-quarter time. So, 3 points went to the Glen Huntly Road end. 20 goals, 28 to the EP end. Now, Angus Clark from Old Melburnians, not just the disappointing end here for Old Melburnians going down to St Kevin's in the last term, but he has copped one of the all-time Falcons here. Will Coates just goes back and lines up and has kicked it straight into Angus's head. Now, Angus did go down in pain, so we do hope he's all right.
Yes.
But that is one of the all-time... Is that more of a Falcon, or is that one of the all-time Smothers?
That's a fine line you draw, but we're going to go with Falcon on this show. It's a ripper. And unfortunately, he did go down, and we hope he's okay. But
he kicked 2 goals for the game.
Did he draw blood?
I hope not.
That's a finable offence if he drew blood.
Yeah, for us mentioning it is. We've also got more footage from Division 3. Powerhouse were out at Point Cook on the weekend, and their coach, Ant's Voyage, has taken this footage prior to the game. He's placed the Sharon at 1 goal line. And if you watch his, we're not going to show it all because it will take far too long, but the wind blows the ball all the way to the other side of the ground and actually gets momentum as it goes.
It's fair to say there was more than a zephyr out of Point Cook.
Yeah.
It's fair to say that. It was blowing an absolute gale.
In other results in William Buck Premier, De La Salle defeated University Blacks in another almighty important game by just the 1 point, and Collegians tied with University Blues in their 2 versus 3, and Old Zavarians are still making that run towards 4, and they're looking absolutely ominous like they do most years. They smashed St Bede's Mentone Tigers by 92 points at Toorak Park. Let's move along to Premier C, and we've got our scribe in the hot seat here. And now, Marsland have won 4 games in a row, Mitch. Are they a genuine contender?
I believe they are. I think their win against Old Haileybury by 41 points a couple of weeks ago was a real telltale win of just what they're capable of. You say they won 4, their last 2 against Kew and Hampton, so not the toughest of oppositions, but before that it was Old Haileybury and Old Geelong who were looking pretty good too, and they were both pretty convincing, 41 points as I said against Old Haileybury and 54 against Oggs, so there's some pretty quality opposition there, and I reckon if they're hitting their straps just at the right time, so they could be a genuine threat come finals.
Do they make the 4? They sit on the fence.
I believe they do because their run home, they've got Caulfield next week.
Yep.
That's at home. That's a tough game. That's going to be a real test.
Yeah, massive game.
But after that, they've got Old Ivanhoe. That's at home as well. Old Mentonians also at home, and Old Campbell. That's away. But all 3 of those teams below them, you'd think they could claim.
You don't know what's going to happen with Old Ivanhoe either. They're very Jekyll and Hyde top.
True.
They're a Jekyll and Hyde side.
So I think with that run, they should make the top 4.
Now, Old Geelong defeated CY at Fearon, which is no mean feat. Are they consistent enough to push for a grand final position over Old Haileybury?
Well, that's the thing. Consistency. I think they're obviously beating Williamstown at Fearon is massive, but they have been a little inconsistent, and they do have a pretty tough run as well. So they've got Caulfield away, Old Ivanhoe away, and Old Haileybury at home. As well as Old Campbell at Como this week. But that's a pretty tough one.
Yep. So what are you saying, that Caulfield are automatically there? You're saying Haileybury's not making it, but so what Caulfield are?
Well, yes, I think the Fielders did.
Went out in straight sets last year?
They did, and that might fuel them in the latter quarter of the year. It might fuel them, Nick.
I believe it will.
Might drive them to greater success.
I just want to know, before we finish with this, who's in the grand final, Premier C?
I believe Caulfield are going to be there.
Yep.
Based on the season, I'm going to say Old Haileybury as well, but they have gone down to Oggs and Marsland, who are looking pretty good at the moment. So
it's very open.
It's very open.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really open section, which we love.
Yeah.
Week to week, it's just changing, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Much more than I would say any other competition,
absolutely.
Especially the top end there. Make sure you come back after this short break, and we will get into our main crux, our main argument of the day, the Best and Fairest Award, or should it just be the best?
Anytime is the right time to get fit at Anytime Fitness. Access over 400 gyms across the country 24/7 and discover why more Australians train at Anytime Fitness than any other gym. Go online and register now for your free 7-day pass and feel something better.
Welcome back to VAFA Tragics. Thank you for sticking around. Now, we're going to get into our main argument right now, and it is Monday, the day of filming. So Patrick Dangerfield has just been offered a 1-week suspension for his dangerous tackle on the weekend, which, if he appeals and doesn't go through, it means he's ineligible to win the Brownlow medal. So it brings into question the best and fairest award. Is it outdated, or should it be altered or loosened to just the best? Mitch, I'll go to you first.
It's a tough one. It is a tough one. But if Patrick Dangerfield was to lose a Brownlow based on that tackle, I would feel it'd be a bit unlucky. So I think
Let's liken it to the Woodrow medal. If this happened in the Woodrow medal, is that fair?
I think I think you want to see the best players get it. And at the end of the day, if you're being unfair and you're going to miss a whole bunch of weeks, you're probably not going to win the Woodrow. So if you're the best player and you're there for the weeks, playing good footy in and out, you deserve to win. I think if you've got the votes, you deserve to win. It's hard to, I mean, if you're going around throwing punches, no one wants to see you win. But if you're throwing punches, you're going to miss weeks. Yep. So it's going to be hard for you to win. So I think the best. I think it should be the best for sure.
Well, I disagree wholeheartedly with that. Like, why we've got, especially in Premier section, we've got the MVP. We've got the coach's MVP. So I don't see why you would have the same criteria for two different awards voted on by two different people if you got rid of the fairest element of it. Now, call me a traditionalist, but it gives a bit of a nice point of difference, the fairest element of the award. And if nothing else, it incentivises our best players to stay out of trouble and lead the competition by example to win individual accolades.
Now, the AFL has tweaked it a little bit. So they've tweaked the system is if you get fined, so that's still a mark against your name, you're still eligible, but if you miss a week, obviously you're not. Now, Stevie J brought up an interesting one on the weekend, and you'll see a tweet coming up on the screen now. What if we make it that if you if you get 3+ weeks, you're ineligible, but anything under 3 weeks, you're still eligible to win the Brownlow or the Woodrow medal?
But it's the same argument though. Like, if you've been found guilty of something like a dangerous tackle, which in itself is something that everyone's trying to stamp out at the moment, then you shouldn't be eligible to win it.
Well, I think that if that's the case, that there's no margin for error. So if you give it 3+ weeks, then if the umpires have made a bad decision and you've missed a week and you're ineligible, well, that's just unlucky.
But it doesn't matter if the umpire makes a bad decision, because the tribunal who will come out, like the evidence that comes to fruition, that's what they're going to base the outcome on. So if the umpire has made an error, then that's going to come out in tribunal and they won't be found guilty anyway.
I think that's fine to say for Premier divisions where it's filmed and there's footage, but when you go a little lower to the divisions where there's often no footage, it's very hard to argue a case and get off. It goes with the umpire. So
and absolutely, it should go with the umpire because that's what they're there to do. So it's the same thing. Like, the evidence that comes to the hearing, that's what the decision gets based on, whether there's filming or not.
There's just no margin for error. That's what I'm saying. There's a real issue. If you take it to 3 games, then there is a little margin for error because we all make mistakes on the footy field, umpires, players. If there's nothing there to protect the players in that regard, they're going to lose a medal just for a mistake. That's not fair.
It also opens up a can of worms in regards to retrospective medals. So in regards to Chris Grant or Corey McKernan, who missed out on Brownlow medals because they were made ineligible for missing weeks, do we hand them retrospective Brownlow medals? I'm not too sure.
Does Joe Watson get his back?
Well, that's a whole other different can of worms that we're not going to open on this show.
Yeah, absolutely it is. We'll move along, and Point Cook held a special general meeting last Wednesday night, and the members voted by a large majority to leave the VAFA and join their senior teams with their juniors in the Western Region Football League. The decision will end an 8-year association with the VAFA, and the club currently sits 8th in Division 3 after playing in the Div 4 Grand Final last year. Now, Brenton, they've got 20 junior teams. They're the largest Western Region club. The main argument for leaving the VAFA is that other teams are picking off their young talent when they come of age, for obvious reasons. And they want to get back to local footy, so if they had parents playing at the same clubs at Point Cook, they want to be in the Western Region Football League. What is your opinion on this?
I see their argument, and I know that for St John's, it is extremely hard to attract talent from a region that is not a VAFA natural heartland. For St John's, they've got, I reckon, probably 5 to 6 leagues in a 100-kilometre radius that offer money for senior football. obviously in the VAFA, we don't offer that. We offer for the love of the game and playing with mates, which is why St John's has been a successful club and still will remain a successful club if they keep that culture. But it's so hard for them to attract players in a market that are so many different options. And I see Point Cook's reasoning, and I understand it. It's a sad fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's move along to this weekend. We're going to give a bit of a preview because it is the first week of Wilson Women's Football Finals. So I'm going to start off with William Buck Premier Women's, and the top four there, as you can see on the screen, Scob Saints, Fitzroy ACU, Marcelin and Old Trinity. Now Trinity and Caulfield were both 8 wins going into last weekend, but Trinity proved too strong for Old Zavarians, while the fields went down to Fitzroy ACU. So they had a pretty tough game. They had pretty poor percentages like we spoke about anyway, so it was always going to be hard even if they did win. So this week's matchup, Scob Saints versus Fitzroy ACU. Now Scob defeated Fitzroy by 24 points, but that was way back in round 1.
Yeah, a lot's changed since then.
A lot has changed since then. Scob is still probably, I guess they're on top of the ladder, so it's easy to say the preeminent side, but they are definitely the form side as well, and I expect them to go straight through. And then we've got Marcelin versus Old Trinity. Now, Marcelin lost to Trinity by 12 points in round 7, but Marcelin probably been in better form since then. So that'll be an interesting one. I don't want to go on either side there. I'll sit on the fence with that one.
As you always do.
As I always do. But what I do think, if Marcelin do get through, they beat Fitzroy ACU a few weeks back. So Marcelin, if they can get past Trinity, they could potentially be playing in the grand final against Scob Saints if it all works out how I'm envisaging.
Yeah. Can Gemma Minners carry Fitzroy ACU?
I have no doubt that she can.
Yep.
I was actually at the Women in Sport luncheon at Fitzroy last weekend, and Gemma was up there with a AFLW player and with Angela Pipos. And she is just, like, we thought she was fantastic on this show.
She's taken it to another level.
She has just taken it to another. She's unbelievable. She's one of the most impressive people I've ever met. And the way she spoke about the culture at Fitzroy and the Royer girls was just absolutely phenomenal.
Great ambassador for the game.
Absolutely, great ambassador for our competition. So we'll move on to Development Division 1. Mitch, you've got this.
I'll take this one because it's St Mary's, my club, are playing there. They're sitting second on the ladder. You've got West Brunswick at the top, and then Old Haileybury and Beau Morris rounding out the 4. Old Haileybury snuck into the 4 after beating Ormond by 52 points last week. They climbed from 5th to 3rd, which was a massive effort for them. That's a massive win. And then you've got Old Geelong, who just missed out. They were sitting in 5th. They missed out on percentage. They did win the Lightning Premiership earlier in the year. And that last week, their captain and a couple of other players, I believe, they pulled a Lenny and they went to the snow, and they didn't get the win, and they've missed out on
They've
finals.
gone to the snow. Libby Graham, superstar of the competition, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure this was booked months ago.
Sure
and the girls
was.
had decided.
Yep.
But this is a do or die clash against one of the top 2 sides.
It's almost unforgivable.
Oh, this is what we battle with here in the VAFA.
We love taking trips, don't we? I never get... Maybe I need to take a few more
Always
trips
the players.
in the footy season.
Nah, great stuff there by Libby, and unlucky to Old Geelong, as you said, they did win obviously the Lightning Premiership earlier this year.
So the first matchup is West Brunswick, who are top of the ladder. They only dropped 3 for the year, I think, and they've taken on my club, St Mary's Salesian. They've only played once throughout the year. That was in round 1, so obviously both teams have probably developed a fair bit since then. And West Brunswick did take the Chocolates by 17 points there, so that should be a really good game. I'm going to go with St Mary's just because I'm biased.
Of course you have to go with St
And they are in a bit of form at the moment. They've come strong at the right time.
Well, St Mary's have those genuine match winners, don't they? Like Tash Rappos.
Tash Rappos and Lisa Davey as well, both play rep footy. So.
Case in point. Bridie Walsh is obviously at West Brunswick. But the way Tash Rappos just commands that back 50.
Whenever she gets it, you just know what's happening. She's just going to break lines, have a couple of bounces in, and the amount of forward 50 entries that she gets is just phenomenal. And when she's kicking at someone like Lisa Davey, you can just take a grab like no one else I've seen in the women's division. It's hard to not tip him, really.
Is Tash a chance for the medal then?
I reckon she would be, actually. She'd get a lot of attention from the umpires, the amount of bounces and runs that she takes. So, yeah, actually, that's a good tip there.
Oh,
There's a couple every now and then.
every now and again.
I'll take over Development Division 2, which sees Old Camberwell, Collegians, Old Carey and Ivanhoe round at the 4. Old Camberwell, 12-2 record, are the team to beat. They've won 10 of their past 11. They're going to be very hard to stop the Wellers. They defeated Collegians by 9 points last weekend. So we've got Old Camberwell versus Collegians, the replay of that match, and Old Carey v Ivanhoe. I'll pick Old Camberwell. I'm going to go with Old Carey over Ivanhoe.
Go down to Development Division 3. Ajax, Mazenod, Hampton Rovers and Old Mentonians. Now, Ajax and Mazenod are the two teams to beat. Clearly, they are clearly the two best teams in that section. 1-1 battle head-to-head. Mazenod can really play, and they can take it up to Ajax. I'm going to say Mazenod, get over Ajax, and Hampton Rovers versus Old Mentonians. Mentonians in form, and I'm going with them.
A little bit of a local rivalry there, Hampton and Mentone.
Yeah,
Bayside rivalry.
Sort of local, I guess.
Yeah. We've got Development Division 4, just to round it out. We've got Hawthorn, South Melbourne Districts, Scob Saints, and my old alma mater, Swinburne University. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I see you've changed your Twitter to alumni.
Yeah, alumni, of course. You've got to pump up the alma mater, of course, the old institution. Hawthorn versus South Melbourne, tied last time they met, but the Hawks won easy earlier in the year. Now, Scob Saints versus Swinburne Uni, 1 point to Swinburne in round 2, tied in round 10. This is a very tight division in regards to the top 4. I'm going to throw a dart at it and say South Melbourne Districts beat Hawthorn, and I'm going to go with Swinburne University over Scob Saints.
I'm going exactly the opposite.
Oh, there you go. That's what we want on the Tragics. Want a bit of difference.
Yeah.
2v3, that's all right. 2v1, that's all right.
Now, just before we wrap up on the Women's International Cup, so 4 VAFA Wilson women's teams will play matches versus the USA Liberty, which is the reserve side for the USA Freedom, who are here for the International Cup in a couple of weeks. It is running from the 5th to the 19th, and Bulleen, Templestowe, Monash Blues, West Brunswick and Oakley will be those 4 teams playing those groundbreaking clashes, really, especially for the VAFA, so we'll put more information on that up on the website. Cool. And the awards night and votes count. Now, at the end of the season, it's exciting.
Yes.
This is the exciting part. This is what gets me going. I really enjoy this type of stuff. The women's votes counts for Development Division 1 to 4 will be broadcast live on 96.5 Inter FM next Wednesday night. And the Premier Awards night is on Monday the 14th at the park, the beautiful park.
Beautiful park.
I went down there the other day. 4 massive chandeliers, some of the most beautiful stuff you've ever seen. We're going to give the full count there for the William Buck Premier Women's section. The Rising Star Award, goal kickers and all other winners will be presented with their medallions. Now, quickly, we've only got a couple of questions here for dissection because we have run over time a little bit here.
Now, Mitch, who is Michael Dolan?
Michael Dolan, yeah. I'm not familiar with him. I know there's a Manny down at St Mary's who's kicked 60 goals for the year, but his head's big enough. So Michael Dolan, I'm not sure.
Do you have to put butter on his ears to get his head through the door?
Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there.
So is he running with his nickname as his name?
Well, to be honest, I've known Manny for a while. I knew him before he played at St Mary's. I didn't know his name was Michael until it was printed in the record this year. So Michael Dolan is Manny Dolan, which who would have known?
And he's flying in front of the big sticks, isn't he?
He is, unfortunately. His head was big enough before he started kicking goals.
Savage. No, well, that's all we've got time for on VAFA Tragics tonight. We thank Mitch Hop too for joining us yet again.
Thanks, mate. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you, Brenton. Thank you.
It's been a show full of clips, hasn't it?
I can't wait for Lenny to come back next week because I'm sure he's going to be fully loaded. Thank you for joining in. We will have a Tragic Take straight after this, so stay tuned. But we'll see you again next week on the Tragics. This week's Tragic Take is going to look at some of the best Falcons in the VAFA. Now, thanks to Angus Clark copping one of the most savage we've seen in a while, I'll count down the top 3 from the past couple of years, starting with Angus. Now, on the weekend against St Kevin's, Will Coates, superstar fullback, has lined up and driven it straight into the side of Angus's head. Now, we do hope Angus is all right, but we don't know whether it was actually an elite smother or just a savage Falcon. Coming in at number 2, a flashback to a couple of years ago where this unsuspecting Trinity fan has copped an absolute rocket and gone flying. But number 1 for the best Falcon in the VAFA goes back to Tom Bachet, also from Old Melburnians, doing the impossible, something we never thought could be done, and unloading straight into his own head. Just have a listen to that thud.